Hi, my name's Jenny Costello. I'm the Executive Director of the Ethical Tea Partnership, and we're a membership organisation. The funding and our members are for the tea companies who buy, sell and blend and pack tea, and they source tea from all of the major tea producing origins around the world. The funding supports ETP, Ethical Tea Partnership, to address social issues and environmental sustainability issues in the tea supply chain. So the company's funding is supporting us to do that. Yeah, so one of the things that we do to support our membership and also support our work in achieving social justice is we're monitoring the emerging legislation that's coming out around human rights due diligence. And we're seeing various forms of legislation with various kind of reach and teeth, if you like. The EU legislation that's coming through is showing that the companies will be responsible for conducting human rights due diligence in their supply chains. Now, the analogy I'm using for this is the greenhouse gas emissions scopes. So if you look at the model for greenhouse gas emissions, you have scopes 1, 2 and 3, and those scopes get further from your actual core operations. And the question is, what is the company responsible for? And some companies embrace their role in creating greenhouse emissions further down the supply chain and outside their own operations. So taking that to human rights due diligence and human rights accountability, it's whether companies are responsible just for the human rights practices within their operations or further down their supply chains. So, if you are a construction company and you're hiring people through an agent or an employer recruitment firm, are you responsible for the employees that they hire, or is it the agent who's responsible for it? I would say that if you're creating a demand for something, you are in some way accountable and responsible for it. So the EU legislation is saying that companies need to understand their human rights impact. We welcome this. We think that there shouldn't be an opportunity for companies to deny their accountability and their responsibility and their role in creating human rights environments and protecting human rights. And what we are also asking for is that our members collaborate rather than creating an industry of many human rights due diligence reports being commissioned. I think there is a way that we can collaborate to do a human rights due diligence on one supply chain and share that information. There's an efficiency in that. There's a moral obligation to share the information, particularly when there are issues. And then finally, there's an opportunity for companies to collaborate to address the issues where they find them. So what we would expect to happen when a company conducts some human rights due diligence. So the first step is they will inevitably outsource this to a firm who is an expert and knows what to look for. And those firms play an invaluable role in understanding the vulnerabilities of people in those supply chains. Now, inevitably, one company who's commissioned that human rights due diligence is buying from a producer who is also supplying someone else. So let's say company 1 or company A commissions the human rights due diligence. Company B needs to know the results of that due diligence as well. And so this is the opportunity for collaboration. Companies A and B can share the information they have about one producer or one supply chain. They can also pool resources to address the issues in that supply chain. So if there's one producer who's particularly egregious or abusing human rights, there's a way that the industry can collaborate to either embargo or blacklist that producer until the producer corrects their abuses, or they can invest and support the producer to adopt better practices for human rights. And what is particularly relevant here is, and I'm going to exaggerate to make the point, companies in the Western world, in the Western Hemisphere, have very far-reaching supply chains. And there is a tendency or a risk that what's out of sight is out of mind. The human rights due diligence brings all of the issues closer to the company. And this is where the global south, where so many supply chains are based, will now become part of the daily agenda for the companies who are creating products and consuming products in the west or the global north. And that's really important, that you can't outsource your problems. You can't hide them in the global south. And hopefully what we would see is companies understanding the importance of the populations and the natural resources in the global south, and take ownership and responsibility for the use of those resources.